In chapters 9 to 12, he explores different types of states, their strengths, the role of public support, church states, and the nature of military forces. These chapters provide deep insights into political power, governance, and military strategy. Let us examine them in detail. Machiavelli's The Prince, chapter number 9, monarchy with public support. In chapter number 9 of The Prince, Niccolo Machiavelli, he delves into the concept of the civil principality, a form of governance where a private citizen ascends to power not through nefarious means or overwhelming force, but with the support and favor of fellow citizens. This ascent, according to Machiavelli, it doesn't hinge on exceptional genius or sheer luck, but rather on a fortunate astuteness, a blend of shrewdness and favorable circumstances. Let's talk about the dual forces within a city. A Machiavellian perspective. Niccolo Machiavelli, in his seminal book, The Prince, he offers an unparalleled examination of power dynamics, governance, and the ever-present struggle between two fundamental factions within any political entity: the nobles and the common people. The nobles and the common people. His observations remain as relevant today as they were in Renaissance Italy. They offer profound lessons on leadership, strategy, and political survival. The two inherent factions, nobles and commoners. Nobles and commoners. Let's talk about Machiavelli, how he identified two opposing yet inextricably linked social forces in every city. The nobles, great men. There are individuals who possess wealth, influence, and a deep-rooted ambition to command, a deep-rooted ambition to dominate, and a deep-rooted ambition to structure the society to their advantage. Their primary motivation is to maintain and expand their power, often at the expense of the broader population. The people, they are the commoners, the general population whose primary aspiration is not power but security. They seek to avoid oppression, they live peacefully, and they ensure their fundamental needs are met. These two forces, they drive the political structure of any society, often clashing in ways that shape governance. Depending on how power is distributed, three possible political outcomes can emerge. Principality. It is a system where a single ruler, the prince, wields power, often supported by either by nobles or by the people. Then we will see the second one, self-government and republicanism. It is a form of governance where power is distributed among elected representatives, ensuring checks and balances between the nobles and the people. And the third one is anarchy. Anarchy is the collapse of authority, leading to chaos, lawlessness, and societal disintegration. A principality. Machiavelli argues that a principality often arises when one faction elevates a leader to power and using him as a tool to fulfill their objectives. However, the source of a prince's power determines his rules' stability and the challenges he will face. Next, we will see the path to power, nobles versus people. Prince. A prince can ascend to power through one of two primary means: by the support of the nobles or by the will of the people. Each path carries its own distinct advantages and perils. Support from the nobles, it is a double-edged sword. Gaining power through noble support, it is fraught with complexity. The nobles are not a mere subordinates, but they are powerful entities in their own right. They often view themselves as equals or potential rivals to the prince. This creates inherent instability for several reasons. Competition for influence. Nobles, they seek power not for governance but for personal gain. They desire influence over the prince. They expect rewards for their support. Lack of true loyalty. The allegiance of the nobles, it is often transactional. If a prince ceases to serve their interest, nobles' interest, they may conspire against him or defect to another power source. Risk of over-reliance. Here we can see, depending too much on the nobles, it makes a prince vulnerable. He may find himself bound by their interests, unable to enact policies beneficial to the broader population. Historical precedents, we can see the downfall of Julius Caesar. It is a prime example of noble ambition overpowering a ruler. The Roman Senate, comprised of aristocratic elite, it saw Caesar's growing power as a threat to their own influence, and ultimately they orchestrated his assassination. The fall of Napoleon Bonaparte, it serves as a classic example of how unchecked ambition it can lead to downfall. After rising to power and establishing himself as an emperor of France, Napoleon's relentless expansionist policies, it led to widespread conflicts across Europe. His disastrous invasion of Russia in 1812 and subsequent defeats, they eventually resulted in his exile, marking the end of his dominance. So, Machiavelli warns that nobles, driven by a relentless thirst for power, they often undermine rulers. They undermine rulers who fail to appease them. A prince who rules solely with the backing of nobles, they may become their puppet or risk being deposed. Now let's talk about support from the people. A foundation for stability. Conversely, a prince who rises with the support of the common people, he enjoys a more stable foundation for growth. Unlike the nobles, the people do not seek dominion. They only need protection, they only need security. This provides distinct advantages. Genuine loyalty. Unlike the nobles who are fickle, who are self-serving, the people are more likely to remain loyal if their well-being is ensured. Sheer numbers, the commoners far outnumber the nobles. Their collective support, it provides strength against internal threats and external aggressions. Then reduce the internal struggles, we can see here. A ruler supported by the people, he faces fewer internal power struggles compared to one reliant on ambitious nobles. Napoleon Bonaparte, he understood the power of popular support, population support. After the French Revolution, he positioned himself as a protector of the people's interests, gaining their backing and rising to become emperor. His early success, they were largely due to the perception that he was the people's ruler rather than an aristocratic oppressor. Machiavelli argues that securing the people's trust is far easier than maintaining the nobles' loyalty. A ruler who satisfies the populace need for security, he can build a lasting reign, whereas nobles, they will always seek to undermine a ruler who does not cater to their ambitions. So, people are important. Then, the Machiavellian strategy for a prince, it's a balancing the nobles, balancing the people. When Machiavelli favors popular support, he acknowledges the necessity of maintaining noble allegiance. A wise prince, he must skillfully manage both passions, ensuring neither becomes too powerful. Controlling ambitions of the nobles. A successful ruler, he must prevent nobles from becoming overly influential. This can be achieved by dividing and conquering, encouraging competition among nobles. It prevents any single one from becoming too powerful. Maintaining a strong military. It's very important. A well-equipped military and loyal to the prince rather than the nobles. It deters any insurrections. A prince must not hesitate to eliminate those who threaten his rule. He has to ensure the well-being of the people, providing security, providing economic stability, providing justice. It strengthens a prince's legitimacy. A satisfied populace, a satisfied population, it is the greatest defense against rebellion and external threats. Then he has to project strength, he has to be cunning. Machiavelli emphasizes that a prince must be both a lion, strong and forceful, and a fox, cunning and strategic. Mere strength without intelligence, it leads to failure. Just as deception without power renders a ruler ineffective. So, Machiavelli's analysis of the interplay between nobles and commoners, it remains profoundly relevant in modern governance. Whether in democratic societies or authoritarian regimes, the struggle between elites and the masses, it continues to shape political landscapes. Historical events from the French Revolution to contemporary populist movements, they illustrate how power vacuums arise when rulers fail to manage these competing forces effectively. Political leaders today, they must navigate these tensions carefully, balancing elite influence while ensuring the people's trust. Ultimately, Machiavelli provides an enduring lesson. Power is not inherently stable. It must be actively maintained through a combination of strategic alliances, calculated decisions, and an acute understanding of human nature. A ruler who comprehends and masterfully manipulates these dual forces, nobles' ambition and popular desire, it stands the best chance of achieving lasting dominance and stability. So, this is chapter number 9. Now let's turn to chapter number 10. Here in chapter number 10, assessing a state's strength, it delves into the crucial aspects of determining whether a state can defend itself independently or if it is reliant on external forces. The core argument Machiavelli presents is that the most powerful and enduring states, they are those that are self-sufficient. They are those that fortified, and they are those that are capable of raising their own armies. States that depend on mercenaries, alliances, or foreign aid, they are inherently weak and susceptible to collapse. Let's talk about the foundation of strength. Self-sufficiency versus dependence. Machiavelli asserts that a ruler must evaluate their state's capacity for self-defense. A state that can raise its own army and withstand sieges without external help is strong. A state that relies on external forces such as foreign mercenaries or allied powers, it is weak. He wants that dependency on others. It leaves a ruler vulnerable as foreign support can be unreliable and it is costly and ultimately serve the interest of the external benefactors. External benefactors rather than the state itself. So Machiavelli draws from historical examples to illustrate this point. He notes that German city-state of his time, they were highly secure because they were well fortified and well maintained their own defensive mechanism. They were not dependent on foreign armies, but instead they relied on their own preparedness. In contrast, Italian city-states, such as Florence, they were frequently at risk due to their reliance on mercenaries who were often disloyal, self-interested, and quick to abandon a losing cause. A contemporary example of self-sufficiency is Israel, a nation that has invested heavily in military technology and national defense rather than relying solely on allies. Its Iron Dome missile defense system, highly trained military forces, and emphasis on self-reliance, it aligns with the Machiavellian principles of state security. By contrast, nations that rely heavily on foreign military bases, defense agreements, or outsourced security forces, they face the perpetual risk of abandonment. So, let's talk about the fortification. Fortification as a political and military strategy. Machiavelli places significant emphasis on fortification as a means of ensuring the security of a state. A well-fortified city, it acts as a deterrent to potential invaders, making conquest arduous and costly. He argues that leaders who maintain well-defended cities, they ensure their citizens' loyalty and they will not be easily overthrown. He praises German cities. Machiavelli praises German cities for their effective defense, noting their strong walls, artillery, and stockpiles of supplies, which make them difficult to besiege. The principle of fortification is not limited to physical defenses. A strong financial system, a strong economic resilience, and ideological unity, it also serves as a modern fortification. Countries with a stable economy, a well-maintained infrastructure, and a loyal citizens, they are less susceptible to external coercion. The Soviet Union, despite its eventual collapse, Soviet Union maintained an extensive defense network during the Cold War, which deterred external aggression for decades. China's Great Firewall. Serves as a digital fortification, controlling information flow and preventing foreign influence from destabilizing its governance. Now let's talk about the dangers of mercenary and auxiliary forces. Machiavelli repeatedly warns against the uses of mercenaries and auxiliary forces. Mercenaries are the soldiers who fight for money rather than loyalty. They make them unreliable in the long run. If a battle turns unfavorable, mercenaries, they will often abandon their employer. Then we'll talk about the auxiliary forces, which are borrowed from an ally. They can be equally dangerous. If victorious, they may refuse to leave, effectively occupying the state they were meant to protect. A historical example is the falling of the Byzantine Empire, which frequently relied on mercenaries and external forces for protection. The infamous betrayal. Let's see the infamous betrayal by the mercenary Tatar company in the early 14th century, which turned against the Byzantine after being hired to fight the Turks. It underscores Machiavelli's warning. Similarly, the collapse of the Roman Empire. It was hastened by its dependence on barbarian mercenaries who eventually turned on Rome itself. Modern parallels, they can be seen in Afghanistan, where reliance on foreign military support from the United States and NATO ultimately proved unstable. When the US withdrew the Afghanistan government, it quickly collapsed as it lacked a strong internal defense system and it had become dependent on external forces for security. Now, let's talk about the role of citizens. The role of citizens in defense and stability. Machiavelli highlights the importance of maintaining the loyal citizen. A ruler who is not hated by the people and provides for their welfare, he can better withstand external threats. He argues that rulers should keep their people occupied, people engaged, ensuring they have livelihoods and interests aligned with the state's stability. One of his key observations is that when a city is well fortified, and its citizens they trust their leader, even a long siege will not break their resolve. He warns against rulers who ignore public sentiment, as internal rebellion can be just as dangerous as an external invasion. The French Revolution, it offers a stark example of, despite having strong fortifications, the monarchy collapsed because it had lost the trust and support of its citizens. In contemporary geopolitics, we can talk about Singapore. It provides an example of a fortified city state with a strong internal system. It has invested in a national service, ensuring that every citizen contributes to defense preparedness. Its strategic location, economic policies, and social cohesion, they have made it one of the most secure and stable nations despite its small size of Singapore. Now let's talk about the psychological and strategic warfare. Machiavelli understood that warfare is not just physical, but warfare is also psychological. A strong leader must maintain control through a combination of fear, respect, and calculated generosity. Machiavelli advises rulers to create a perception of invincibility so that enemies hesitate before attack. This strategy can be seen in the Cold War doctrine of mutually assured destruction, where both US and Soviet Union they maintained such powerful nuclear arsenals that neither dared to initiate direct conflict. By making war appear too costly, both sides maintained a fragile peace. Similarly, modern leaders use economic sanctions, cyber warfare, and diplomatic isolation as strategic fortifications. The US sanctions on Iran is an example. They are designed to weaken it. They are designed to weaken Iraq from within rather than relying on direct military confrontation. This aligned with Machiavelli's idea that a ruler should seek to make an attack against them. It appears too difficult or too costly to pursue. Then let's talk about the eternal relevance of Machiavellian statecraft. Machiavelli's insights on state strength it remains profoundly relevant. His emphasis on self-sufficiency, fortification, citizen loyalty, and strategic difference, they can be applied to even today in 2025 to modern governance. It can be applied to military strategies and geopolitical decision making, whether in ancient Italy or Cold War superpowers or modern nation states. Machiavelli principles they serve as a guide for leaders who seek stability and longevity in power. A wise ruler, according to Machiavelli, a wise ruler, he must ensure that their state is fortified, not just in wars and armies, but in economic stability, political unity, and citizens' loyalty. By maintaining control over their resources and not relying on external forces, a leader can withstand both internal unrest and external threats. Now let's talk about chapter number 11. It offers a unique perspective on ecclesiastical principalities, states ruled by religious authority. Unlike other forms of government, that depends on military strength, that depends on strategic alliances, or that depends on economic control. Church states, they derive their power from divine authority and the religious institutions. This makes them exceptionally resilient, and in Machiavellian's view, it is virtually invulnerable to the threats that secular rulers must constantly guard against. Their legitimacy is sustained not by force but by faith. And this ideological dominance, it enables them to exert a profound influence over political affairs. Let's talk about the unique nature of church states. Machiavelli notes that ecclesiastical principalities, they are different. They are different from other forms of governance. They are established through either fortune or prowess, but once in power, they require neither to maintain control. Unlike monarchies, unlike republics, or unlike military states, that they must continuously defend their authority. Church rulers enjoy a self-sustaining form of governance protected by their religious institutions. This makes them fundamentally secure. One of the most critical observations Machiavelli makes is that ecclesiastical rulers, they do not have to govern their subjects in the traditional sense. The people under their rule, they do not expect the same kind of political oversight, military defense, or legal enforcement that secular rulers must provide. Instead, their governance is spiritual in nature, and the obedience they command is based on religious devotion rather than coercion or legal frameworks. This allows them to maintain power even in the face of corruption, even in the face of corruption, even in the face of incompetence, or even in the face of political upheaval. Let's see the strength of ideological control. The power of ecclesiastical principalities, it stems from their ability to shape ideology. The Catholic Church, if we take, it exerted immense influence over European politics for centuries. Not because of its military might, not because of its military might, but because of its control over religious doctrine, religious morality, and the spiritual lives of its followers. This ideological monopoly, it meant that even kings, emperors, they had to seek papal approval to legitimize their rule. Similarly, powerful religious institutions today, such as the Vatican, they maintain their status not through force, but through deep-rooted beliefs and traditions. Leaders who understand the importance of controlling narratives and ideological legitimacy, they can maintain power. They can maintain power more effectively than those who rely solely on military or economic strength. These entities, they sought to maintain a delicate balance of power to prevent any one of them from gaining complete dominance. The Pope, despite being a spiritual leader, he was also a political actor. He often engages in a power struggle with these other rulers. One of the main factors that weakened the papacy's political influence in earlier times, it was the presence of feuding Roman barons. Particularly the Orsini and the Colonna families. These factions, they constantly at war with one another. They kept the Pope from consolidating control over Rome and its surrounding territories. No single Pope ruled long enough to completely eradicate one faction before another arose to challenge him. However, with the arrival of Pope Alexander VI, the situation changed dramatically. Pope Alexander VI, through his strategic use of his son Cesare Borgia as a military enforcer, he managed to subdue many of these factions and expanded the church's temporal power, while his primary goal was to secure power for his own family. The ultimate beneficiary of his actions was the Catholic Church. Catholic Church. Now let's talk about the role of Alexander VI and Julius II in strengthening the church state. Machiavelli, he pays special attention to Alexander VI and Julius II, two popes who transformed the papal states into a formidable political entity. Alexander VI, through his use of military force and cunning diplomacy, he was able to consolidate power in a way that no previous pope had managed. His son Borgia, he played a crucial role in eliminating rival faction and bringing much of Italy under papal control. Julius II continued Alexander's work, using his political acumen to expand the church's influence even further. Unlike Alexander, who pursued power for personal gain, Julius II, he sought to strengthen the church itself. He successfully waged wars against the Venetians and expelled the French from Italy, further solidifying the Pope states as a dominant force in European politics. And leaders who can establish ideological dominance, they can maintain power even in the absence of military. Then you see institutional strength over individual power. Unlike monarchies that rely on the confidence of individual rulers, ecclesiastical principalities, they are sustained by institutions. This means they can withstand weak or corrupt leaders because the institution itself commands authority. Then let's talk about manipulating faith. Manipulating faith for political gains. Catholic Church ability to blend the spiritual authority with the political maneuvering, it made it one of the most powerful entities in European history. Modern leaders, they can learn from this by understanding how to wield soft power. How to wield soft power through cultural, ideological or religious influence. Then we'll see the importance of stability. Unlike secular states that are prone to rebellion and external threats, ecclesiastical principalities, they enjoy a high degree of stability because due to their religious legitimacy. Leaders who can establish a similar perception of legitimacy, they can reduce the likelihood of internal dissent. Then we can see the modern patterns and modern applications. The influence of religion in politics. It is not confined to the era of Machiavelli. Even today, religious institutions, they play a significant role in shaping political landscapes. Nations like Iran, where religious leaders, they hold supreme power. They demonstrate the continuing relevance of Machiavelli's observation. The Vatican City, despite being a small state, it continues to exert global influence due to its moral and ideological authority. Similarly, political movements and parties that successfully integrate ideological narratives into their platforms, they often find long-term success. For instance, nationalist movements that blend the political rhetoric with the cultural or religious identity, they tend to have more staying power than those that rely purely on economic policy. Now, Machiavelli's insights into church states, it highlights the profound impact of ideological control in politics. Unlike secular rulers who must constantly defend their authority through force or diplomacy, ecclesiastical leaders, they wield power through faith and institutional legitimacy. It makes them uniquely resilient and capable exerting influence far beyond their territorial boundaries. For modern political leaders, Machiavelli's analysis, it serves as a guide to understanding the enduring power of institutions, the importance of controlling narratives, and the necessity of ideological legitimacy. Whether in politics, or in business, or in international relations, those who master these principles, they can achieve lasting influence without the need for constant conflict or coercion. Ultimately, the Prince teaches us that power is not merely about military might or economic strength. It is about shaping perception. It is about controlling ideologies. It is about ensuring the stability of institutions. The lesson from church states, it remains as relevant today as they were in Machiavelli's time. They offer a blueprint for those who seek to maintain authority in an ever-changing world. Let's talk about the chapter number 12, different kinds of armies and the dangers of mercenaries. Machiavelli's discourse on military organizations in the Prince of, it offers a profound lesson in statecraft. In chapter number 12, he vehemently criticizes the use of mercenary forces, deeming them unreliable. Mercenaries are unreliable. They are self-interested and ultimately dangerous to the sovereignty of any principality. His argument extends beyond a mere preference for citizen armies. It is a cautionary tale of how misplaced trust in foreign or non-loyal forces, it can dismantle the very foundation of a state. By delving into historical examples, political philosophy, and contemporary analogies, we can uncover the deep layers of Machiavelli's wisdom in the art of governance and art of warfare. Let's talk about the mercenary armies. Mercenary armies, a threat to sovereignty. They are the threat to sovereignty. Machiavelli argues that mercenaries, being motivated solely by monetary gain, they lack true allegiance to the state or to the ruler they serve. Their loyalty is transient, shifting according to whoever offers them the highest reward and the highest bill. This mercenary mindset breeds disloyalty, cowardice, and opportunistic approach to war. When peace prevails, they become a financial burden, and in times of conflict, they prove ineffective or even treacherous. One of the most infamous examples supporting Machiavelli's assertion is that the fall of the Roman Empire. The fall of the Roman Empire. As Rome expanded, it increasingly relied on hired barbarian forces rather than its own disciplined legions. Over time, these mercenaries, having no inherent loyalty to Rome, they turned against it. Leading to the empire's eventual collapse. The lesson here is clear. When a state depends on mercenary troops, it places its security in the hands of those who have no vested interest in its survival. Machiavelli also highlights the fight of Italy during his time. The reliance on mercenary troops left the Italian state vulnerable to foreign invasions. As these hired soldiers, they had no real stake in defending the homeland. When Charles VIII of France he invaded Italy, he faced little resistance as Italian mercenaries either fled or capitulated without a fight. The catastrophe, Machiavelli asserts, it was a direct consequence of Italy's misplaced trust in non-citizen armies. So let's talk about now citizen armies. The key to a strong state, citizen armies. In contrast, Machiavelli champions the formation of citizen armies. He argues that only those who have a personal stake in their homeland, they will fight with true valor. A state's own subjects, when trained and disciplined, they form a more cohesive and loyal force than mercenaries ever. The example of the Roman Republic, before its reliance on foreign soldiers, it illustrates this principle perfectly. Rome's, Rome's early expansion, Rome's early dominance, they were fueled by citizen soldiers. They fought not for pay, but for the glory and survival of their nation. Similarly, the success of the French Revolution. It's a revolution's national army. It underscores Machiavelli's argument. Unlike the monarchies of Europe that relied on mercenary mercenary forces, revolutionary France mobilized its own citizens who fought with fervor and commitment. This shifting military strategy allowed France to resist external threats and spread revolutionary ideals across Europe. Let's see the modern parallel. Private military contractors. Machiavelli insights, they remain eerily relevant in modern times. Today, many nations, they employ private military contractors. They employ private military contractors for various military operations. While these forces can be effective in certain short-term engagements, they pose significant risks to national security. The United States heavy reliance on these private military people in conflicts like Iraq and Afghanistan, it served as a contemporary case study. These contractors, much like Machiavelli's mercenaries, these contractors, they operate primarily for profit. Their loyalty to the hiring state is conditional, and in some cases, their actions have undermined diplomatic and military objectives. A striking example we can take here. That is the case of Blackwater. Now we call it as Academy. A private military firm employed by the US government. Several incidents involving Blackwater operatives, including human rights abuses and excessive use of force, it led to severe political and diplomatic repercussions. The unpredictability and the lack of accountability surrounding such forces, it echoed Machiavelli's warnings about the perils of mercenaries. Now let's see the psychological implications as well as political implications. Beyond the battlefield, Machiavelli's critique of mercenary forces, he extends into political philosophy. A ruler who relies on high restraint, he is inherently weak as he places his power in the hands of those who may easily betray him. This applies not only to military affairs but also to governments itself. A prince who depends on external advisors or foreign influence rather than cultivating loyalty among his own people, he risks losing control. History provides numerous instances, numerous examples where political leaders they have been undermined by their reliance on external forces. The downfall of the Byzantine Empire. The Byzantines often hired foreign soldiers, but as the empire weakened, these mercenaries they became unreliable and eventually ineffective in defending the state. It allies with Machiavelli's argument. A state that cannot stand on its own military strength, it is destined to fall. So let's talk about the role of auxiliary forces. Machiavelli also warns against the use of auxiliary forces, troops, the borrowed from allied nations. While seemingly more reliable than mercenaries, auxiliaries they pose their own dangers. If they win a battle for a prince, the victory belongs not to him but to the external power that supplied the troops. The state then becomes dependent on its allies, potentially compromising its sovereignty. Let's take a historical example. It is the fate of Carthage, which relied heavily on auxiliary troops during its conflicts with Rome. Despite its economic wealth, Carthage, it depends on foreign soldiers, weakened its strategic position. When these forces were no longer reliable, Carthage, it was unable to defend itself effectively, leading to its destruction in the Third Punic War. So finally, we'll see the Machiavelli's enduring lesson. Machiavelli's insights into military strategy, they extend far beyond the realm of warfare. They serve as a broader metaphor for governance, stability, and self-reliance. His core lesson is clear. A state must cultivate its own strength rather than depend on external force. Whether through military might, political autonomy, or economic reliance. True power comes from within. This principle holds weight in contemporary geopolitics. Nations that rely excessively on foreign aid, military alliances, or economic dependencies, they risk compromising their sovereignty. In contrast, those that build robust internal institutions, they maintain strong civic engagement and they develop self-sufficient defense mechanism. They are far better positioned to endure challenges. Machiavelli's warning against mercenaries, it is ultimately a call for self-reliance. A prince or any leader, any ruler, they must secure his rule through his own means rather than borrowing strength from others. The lessons from Rome, the lessons from Italy, the lessons from modern conflicts all affirm this argument. As history repeatedly shows, the power that comes from within is the only power that truly